My name is Logan Davidson. I support Progress Texas because they are one of, if not the most effective rapid response messengers for progressive policy priorities, and they are, I think, one of the only entities that is a strong answer to the Republican propaganda that we see in the state.
It's Tuesday, November 25th, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. So Newsweek isn't one of my favorite sources, but appears to be leading on the latest regarding the 2025 gerrymandered map of Texas's congressional districts struck down by a 2-1 majority of that El Paso judge panel last week, and that decision stayed temporarily on Friday by U.S. Supreme Court Associate Justice Sam Alito. Gabe Wisnant at Newsweek says that yesterday, as Alito had requested last weekend to happen by the end of the day yesterday, voting rights groups led by LULAC have filed a challenge to Alito's order allowing Texas to use the new map for now, ordering that the state's mid-decade redistricting scheme is an extraordinary case of racial gerrymandering that cannot be shielded by the Purcell principle, which we talked about yesterday. That's the doctrine that says U.S. courts should not change election rules too close to an election because of the risk of causing confusion among the electorate. It's named after Purcell v. Gonzalez, a 2006 SCOTUS case. Purcell is frequently invoked by the Supreme Court and lower courts to allow elections to proceed under a state's preferred voting requirements, maps, and other rules, which is exactly what Alito did on Friday night, arguing that installing a new and questionably constructed map in a situation where the old map is being used in an ongoing special election, in the case of Houston's CD18, is somehow less confusing to the voters than keeping the old map in place, which is what the groups challenging the map are screaming. They argue Purcell does not apply in the current Texas case because the general election is almost a year away, the candidate filing window will remain open for weeks, and that in any event, state officials themselves testified at trial that those deadlines could be modified and extended without any significant administrative burden. Mainly, to reiterate, they argue that reverting to the map used in the previous 2 election cycles would create less confusion than keeping the disputed version in place. Next move is SCOTUS's, and they say they're going to move fast, so stay tuned. As we all know, Texas is a place where self-determination and independence and bootstrap pulling is very central to how we see ourselves. Of all these 50 states, if one thinks of itself as an independent country, it is undoubtedly Texas. And thinking of the Lone Star State through that lens, it may not have occurred to you how striking Governor Greg Abbott's recent tendencies towards capitulation and submission to the whims of Donald Trump, including on that new congressional map, truly have become. A great analysis on this idea from the Texas Tribune and ProPublica, done by Zach Despart, notes that just last year, the governor was complaining about then-President Joe Biden's plan to bring the Air National Guard units from 6 states under the control of the U.S. Space Force. This didn't even involve Texas, and Abbott was up in arms about what he called a, quote, intolerable threat that would set a dangerous precedent, unquote. And just a year later, Abbott has granted Donald Trump full control of Texas National Guard members to be sent to Illinois and Oregon to back up ICE, even as the governors of those states strongly objected, saying such action was an unnecessary escalation that interfered with state sovereignty. The exact same argument that Greg Abbott had made against Biden. Abbott himself told Fox News that all of this is because he and Trump are buds. Quote, President Trump and I have a good, long-standing working relationship, unquote. Ultimately, our governor, and as a result, the government and resources of Texas have become literally a puppet state for Trump as he continues to extend and test the limits of federal executive power. It's not hard to deduce that this abandonment of Texas's values in regard to our independence is really about our governor's personal political ambitions. He's using Texas as a means to get ahead with Trump while setting all kinds of dangerous precedents. Great read in the show notes and a pile of reasons that Greg's got to go in 2026. Another great read you'll find linked in the show notes is on Twitter, which, yes, is now called X, but will always be Twitter to me. Nostalgic, really, for a time when Twitter was just a toxic but still fun arena of partisan bickering, but X is now all grown up into what Charlie Warzel at The Atlantic calls Elon Musk's worthless poisoned hall of mirrors. Our state's most notorious transplant and wannabe trillionaires platform launched a new About This Account feature over this last weekend, showing where accounts were created, where users are based, and how often usernames have been changed. Immediately, many prominent pro-MAGA accounts claiming to be run by patriotic Americans were shown to actually be based in countries including Russia, India, Nigeria, and Thailand. And users used About This account to collect and present numerous examples of rage-baiting accounts posing as Americans to push political agitation, misinformation, and spam, confirming longtime suspicions that Twitter is lousy with foreign and fake actors. Although the feature was supposed to provide more transparency for X users, the scale of revealed deception highlights how deeply X has become overrun by trolls and spam since Elon Musk took it over in 2022, since when his transforming of Twitter into a political weapon has also transformed it into a chaotic misinformation machine. Over the weekend, confusion grew as people reported accounts that the new feature had apparently mislabeled due to the presence of VPNs or proxies, which of course provides bad actors with deniability, which even further deepens X's post-truth environment, where, as the Russians like to say, nothing is true and everything is possible. There are two broader lessons explored in this Atlantic piece. First, platform incentives encouraging extreme performative content for money via X's creator program have likely encouraged the creation of more and more fake MAGA accounts, each chasing small payouts. With moderation virtually non-existent and Musk's absolutist view of free speech, X has created ideal conditions for this informational breakdown. And second, X now amplifies culture war conflict in ways that are significant but hard to measure. Journalists, politicians, and influencers still rely on the platform, often elevating posts from supposedly ordinary accounts that in most cases they have not verified not to be fake. The recent Cracker Barrel thing is a good example, in which it was found that more than a third of the online activity around the Cracker Barrel logo controversy came from fake accounts. Great read in the show notes, but I'll say here that Warzel concludes that the rational response to what Twitter has mutated into would be simply for all of us to log off. There's little reason to continue participating in and supporting a psychologically draining, algorithm-driven hallucination. Here at Progress Texas, we're gearing up for both of our two holiday parties next month. The first on Monday, December 8th in Austin, and the second the following Monday, December 15th in Dallas, for the first time featuring live podcast recordings with a bunch of our most influential and favorite movers and shakers. In Austin, our pod panel features State Senator and Congressional candidate Sarah Eckhart, State Rep and candidate for Lieutenant Governor Vicki Goodwin, and State Senator Roland Gutierrez. In Dallas, we've got State Rep and gubernatorial candidate Gina Hinojosa, candidate for Attorney General Joe Jaworski, Tarrant County State Senate candidate Taylor Ramette, and Texas House Minority Leader Gene Wu. Sponsorships are available, and so far, our holiday parties are brought to you by Shaping the Future supporter Charles Zeller, Fired Up supporter John Adair, Be the Change supporters Scott Elpingstone and Howard Cleon, Persistent supporters the Honorable Dick Levine, the Honorable Yasmin Simon, Jason Smith and Sarah Pareda, Unified, and Jerry Yoss. Good Trouble supporters Allison Grinter Allen, Bright Blue Inc., Alex Clark and Kate Rumsey, hosts of the Mission Texas podcast, Valerie DeVille, the Honorable Vicki Goodwin, Joe Jaworski, the Honorable Ron Nierenberg, and Mark Yagdjian. And Raise More Hell supporters Louis A. Bedford IV, Stuart Campbell, Hannah Cutshaw, Bill Holston, the Honorable Donna Howard, Angela and Gary Kutak, Jenny Laughlin, Carol Orr, Jennifer Owen, Mark Ferris, the Honorable Zoe Condry, Beth Stromberg, and the Texas Progressive Caucus. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the billionaire and corporate-funded conservative disinformation machine, and we rely largely on listener support to keep doing what we do. While we enjoy the support of hundreds of partners, chances are that you, dear listener, haven't joined the team yet. If you're a regular, let's get you on board right now, like Sandra Seifert, Robert Whitehead, and Jim Bates all have done. We appreciate all of you very much. Join the team at ProgressTexas.org. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Tuesday, November 25th, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.